Okay, hello everyone. I had this idea, this eureka moment that sort of came to me, and it's like 4 in the morning, and I have to do this right now. So, as you know, my other videos have to do with the Illuminati, and I said in one that maybe they don't exist today, or maybe they do, or maybe we call a cabal of people in the know sort of Illuminati. The Illuminati was founded in Adam Weishaupt, 1776, coincidentally the same powerful year that the United States had come about. And other people, I've heard no one mention this, but it was inspired off of the visions of Swedenborg. I believe he was a Jewish lineage, a Catholic convert, in Sweden, obviously. Swedenborg is how you spell it if you want to look him up. Now, so the mystical vision had to do with creating a perfect order. Swedenborg was brought up to heaven in a vision, and he saw and described how everything was perfectly ordered, a perfect society where everyone was at peace, a Garden of Eden type thing on an ascended earth, we might say. Now, it broke down. I think the organization died, and then under Madame Blavatsky, the spiritualist movement, in the late 1800s, they reformed the Illuminati, and so there was this break, and so it was reformed, something totally different. What their agenda was, who knows? Well, I can tell you. Madame Blavatsky, I give a lot of credibility. She, I think from the age of 16, was married off to some colonel or something. She was like Russian nobility. She, I think, was a lesbian, a very strong woman, and she traveled the world. She had powers. Poltergeist activity would happen around her. The knocking, the rapping, you wouldn't hear it unless you crossed the threshold into the apartment. I remember a journalist, a skeptic, a famous one, don't ask me the name, but he went there, they recorded everything, and as soon as he picked up the decanter to pour some wine, I believe she did not drink, it shattered in his hands. The knocking he thought was a hoax, it was happening, and then the knocking happened on the inside of his glasses, which fell off his face and broke. I think he became a believer then. The poltergeist phenomena, the powers that were around Madame Blavatsky, they tend to circulate around or begin and end around when females start their periods. That's important. The blood, the magnetism, the things like that. That's a whole other subject. It has to do with occultism and perhaps sacrificial magic and things that the OTO is involved in, where the conspiracies say they eat babies and things like that. Celebrities and stuff, the people in power in the States here that are said to be involved in that, I think that's a load of crap. I don't think enlightened individuals who are fit to lead and rise up there, I don't think that many people can keep a secret. I don't think that many can get involved in something and be okay with that, and then the sacrifice of family members. That's all crazy conspiracy stuff. The Illuminati, the idea is, Blavatsky was guided. Since she was young, it was a man looked like Jesus. He was from the Himalayas or whatever, and she went to a world fair in London. She was walking, and she saw this figure with the turban, real tall, and her eyes got wide, and as she was walking, he looked at her as if he knew, as if he really was someone who had materialized in her visions for years and now appeared in person by synchronicity, and he went like this, and they kept walking. Later on, she was at a park bench or something, speaking to him, and he was only visible from the waist up. That's important. I've had visions, like a gift. I'm not religious. I've looked at tons of visions people had. They read the Bible or watch movies and things, and their visions are totally influenced by what they see. Those are just dreams. When I speak of a vision, I've seen every major thing that's happened in my life and stuff that is yet to come. Perhaps I will do one solely on that. I'm gonna have to delete all of this at some certain point because I want to get involved in politics. But so the Illuminati, she was guided by this spiritual man, this secret society that belonged out in Tibet and the Himalayas. If you want to find real magic to this day, I remember Steve Cohen went to India and he couldn't explain the open air magic that they did, the rope tricks. Of course, he said he could recreate it, but there is no way when he picked all these things in the environment that the tricks that they do with the rope going up in the sky, the kid climbs up, it disappears, all types of crazy ritualistic, not ritualistic, but just not illusion, but real magic. If you want to read about it, Isis Unveiled, Volume 1 and 2 by Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, H.P. Blavatsky, the founder, we might say, of the modern-day Illuminati and the spiritualist movement. Okay, so she sees, because she believes in, this sect of spiritual people who can project themselves while they live here in body. They can project themselves across space and time to really appear as a ghost. She saw him from the waist up. In all of my visions and visions of people that I've talked to and heard about that were bona fide, you see people from about the shoulders up, chest up. Everything's often orangish or golden. Whether that's the astral plane, we might say that, where instead of moving through space, you move through time just as easily as we move through space. Now, everyone sees something different. Read about near-death experiences in the Middle East, in Africa, and the Christian West. People, the Mohammedans, the Islam, they are comforted when they have this comforting figure visit them in a near-death experience. They don't see Jesus, or maybe some do, they call him Isa. They see Muhammad or something like that. People who believe in the aliens and the New Age movement, what do they see? Beings of light who look similar to us but maybe different. Some see grays type things, like the Pleiadians, is little beings of light that look like grays. Whereas Christians, of course, you hear of tons of stories when they are meeting with this comforting figure who is giving them a message, they see a man that looks like Jesus. I don't know why, but mine are slightly different. Mine and my guides, for one, ever since I was little, it's a lady in white, like the Lady of the Lake. She has blonde hair, and I actually saw her face for the first time with it about a year ago, and she was standing at the edge of a dream, and she said, "I need to tell you something." And I looked at her and saw her face. Her eyes were like glowing blue. Her face structure was, her cheekbones were so pronounced. She wasn't quite human. There is nothing malevolent about her. It's the same thing as if I were a Christian, I think I would be seeing Jesus who would be giving me these visions. But it is her, and I see a woman, a lady in white. Some may call her Isis, whatever. She walks across the face of the waters. She is the mediator, the messenger between pure spirit and matter, and between that is the surface of the waters, and the guides who can move to us and give us messages from God are seen to be sitting upon a lotus floating atop the water. The lotus sacred because it sits on water and grows by the sun, therefore existing between fire and water, two polar opposites, and not needing the ground or soil, the color black, to survive. So red, white, and blue, the flag can't touch the ground. Red, white, blue is a bit off topic, but fire, air, and water. Hama is fire. Ruach, the Hebrew word for air. Mahim, the Hebrew word for water. Hiram, like the Freemasonry. In Freemasonry, you have Hiram Abiff. That is the three things: red, white, and blue. That's why it's in our flag. The color of earth is black. That's why it can't touch the ground. Now, so there is a spiritual order that is guiding the world. and they communicate with certain selected individuals who become great. They become writers, because the speakers or writers today, if Jesus existed, he would be a writer, because we have printing press, books, things like that, and he would guide and renew the world through philosophy by being a writer. And that's why they say, I don't know if it was Eckhart, Meister Eckhart something. I read a lot of the prophecies. I remember reading a book somebody gave me having to do with Illuminati, and they said that the Antichrist figure will be a writer. A few said that, visionaries from a couple hundred years ago, and it makes a lot of sense. The Antichrist will be a popular term because the Western Christendom rules the world, and the church is the only one, the Catholic Church, to come out and say that there would be this Antichrist figure. None of the other religions had this, but every 2,160 years, when a new avatar or movement is born, the movement happens, and then they select a person who sort of guides it. It just naturally occurs. These people that are great, that could be like Jesus, exist at all times. The idea of an Antichrist will be the person who renews the world and unifies the religions. I think I mentioned in another video there were 1,000 or 10,000 different religions in Egypt at one time, and then everything became more and more unified as the kingdoms became, as time wore on. And now we're down to like 3 or 5 major religions in the world, less than there's ever been, encompassing more people than there has ever been. And the next step, especially in the globalized world with communications and media encompassing the entire globe, is the next time a spiritual revolution happens, a revolution in thought, a revolution in governance and politics, as all religions are political orders as well. Just like Islam can't accept anything other than its vision for the world, Christianity can't accept anything other than what exists now. There'll be another revolution, and when I tell you this, I'm not talking about 100 years from now. There will be another revolution in 2 years, 10 years. It's going to coincide with the economic drop that's happening. Fascism is rising around the world, whether we're talking about Turkey losing their democracy to Erdogan, Russia to Putin, the Philippines to Duterte, who is a horrible man who is a mass murderer as well, Venezuela to Maduro, and I watch how the elections are rigged and how everything happens. I studied how Napoleon did it, and I watch for it to happen here. Donald Trump is not capable of doing it, but if he consolidates power like these other strongmen that he rubs shoulders with and praises, the person who comes after him will be the Napoleon. That's how it works with that's how it worked with Greece and Rome. So anyway, in 2 minutes I'm going to explain everything. When I have the visions, for instance, I was taken above the world, and I saw sort of a futuristic society beneath us and all this technology. I met with an old man who was a scientist, and he was quizzing me and testing me, and I told him about all this physics technology that I studied, like from Dr. Paul Leviolet's The Secrets of Anti-Gravity Propulsion, taught me a lot. For some reason, I was explaining everything with that, and it's not something I'm really interested in anymore. And he said, good. And he said, make sure you write about it. And I said, okay, yeah, I'm going to do that. And his glasses started glowing, and the ground opened up. We were up above a city. It reminded me of like San Francisco. And the woman, the lady in white, was to my right. And I was being sent down below, I think incarnated, and I got so angry, and I told him, I'm going to take over everything, I'm going to ruin everything, you can't send me down here. I was so mad. It was just the idea of a vision. But in mine and other people's that we see, and with Elon Musk talking about it, there's sort of an idea taking precedence that we're being guided from a matrix, programmers, or some sort of higher spiritualized realm, that we created this program, this matrix, in order to face certain trials in our lives we choose before we're born, so that we would become more virtuous in the blink of an eye. Just think, people who are dying can put on a headgear and spend time in a virtual reality with their family, and 1 minute can feel like 10 hours. Okay, we got 15 seconds left, but symbols. We see something, I think everything's orbs of light. We see something that's magnificent, and we see it as Jesus or Muhammad or whatever. Alright, I gotta cut this short. I hope this helped with something. We'll